The floor is yours, Davide. Thank you.
Thank you, Ale, and thank you everyone for being here. So I see a virtual room very crowded, also from teachers. We didn't met before, so I'm very happy that you can consider this session, this online session, interesting. So, in this 1 hour of training, we will see how the food system is related and is affecting the climate change. For this reason, we call this session, this training, Foodprint. It's something like the footprint, but this is, let's say, mainly related to the food, to the effect of food to the climate change and how the climate change affect food. So, um, I'm trying to go on the other one. No, no, it is not working. Okay, it's a bit slow. Okay, so regarding the agenda, we will see how food and climate change are related. In other words, how the food system, how the production chain of food impact on climate change and how climate change impacts on the on food, on the production, delivery, and for instance, the cultivation of food and intensive farming and so on. Then we will go deeper with an overview with, say, with addressing the healthy eating attitudes and how these are related to climate change. So we will see how the production chain of food will impact on the specific eating attitudes of people and how these attitudes will impact on the climate change and all the other aspects related. Then we will have an overview on the healthy educational methodology. So we will see how the education and school are engaged and what is the role in the say in the healthy education also related to eating attitudes. Then we will have, let's say, concluding remarks with a sum up of the topics addressed and some, let's say, open floor to questions, to comments, and so on. So, starting with food and climate change, we um, we can say that during let's say the second half of the 20th century, so after the Second World War, the population of the world increasingly grows in number. So at the same time, the industry tried to supply for this demand of food. So this means that the food security was the main basement that the world was facing and that was considering important in producing food. So this means that food security can be considered in terms of affordable, reliable, and safe food for all sectors of society. So, as the population of the world was growing, at the same time, the demand of food was growing, and let's say this could be affordable until the last decade, as the quality and the quantity of the demand of food by people was could be achieved, let's say like this. But what was gained so far until last decade, let's say, it is not anymore affordable and sustainable, in the fact that the food security for everyone, for all the people, is not so easy to achieve, and also there are the resources to produce food and to maintain this food in a high standard and quality for all the people is getting even difficult to achieve. But also what was not considered before important was the how the production of food affected the environment. So this means that in nowadays the environment is failing the ability to buffer increasing anthropogenic impacts. This means that the impacts of the human behavior, of the human work is so spread, is so big, is so let's say so heavy that the environment cannot naturally face this changement. For the environment, we mean the climate agents, and but also the environment as the industry and as the all the yeah, all the industries built by the humankind. So this means that we as people cannot face these problems that we created ourselves. So this is something really, say, really strange and also difficult to deal with. But anyway, the most important thing is that the climate change, let's say, is a set of interconnected trends and risks facing agriculture and food systems. So this is only one, agriculture and food systems is only one of the domain which is being affected by climate change and also is affecting climate change. I'm trying to go to next slide, but sorry, today the connection is really slow. Apologize for this. I will try to stop sharing and then share again. I don't know why this is not working. Okay, I hope now you can see this. Okay, I think now it will work. So we are saying that how the food system and the climate change were affecting each other, and keeping in the focus on the food system, we can say that this has to adapt to the long and short-term climate change. So this means that the long-term climate change means that, for instance, that the world temperature will rise for 3 degrees in 3 years. So this long-term change can be considered affordable for the food system and for the food industries. This means this means that they can be prepared for when the temperature will rise. They can starting planning some mitigation procedures and so on. But regarding the short-term impact on the food system, this is something more imprevisible. So this means that it's difficult when, for instance, there are heat waves or a long period of drought, as happened in Italy last year, or heavy precipitation. So all this variability of atmospheric agents has has more impact on the food system than the long-term climate change. So okay, I'm trying to change the slide again, but
Davide, sorry for
yeah,
interrupting. Should we try to just maybe exit the presenter mode? Maybe that's the problem.
yeah, we can try, but it seems like my computer is not responding to my input.
Okay.
So I'm
Davide,
If you
yeah,
what
want,
if
you can share the presentation with us and we can share it for you. Sorry, Miki. What?
no, I was
Sorry.
telling the same.
Okay. Okay, cool. So if you want, yeah, we can do that. You can share it, you can send it to us via email maybe, and then we'll try to share it for you, yeah?
I'm
Okay,
sending to you just now.
cool.
Ale, sorry,
See?
should I present it? So because
If you want, you can present it. Okay.
yeah, because
Yes.
you're recording also. I don't want to add
Yeah,
stuff.
maybe it's a bit too heavy. I got installed the Wi-Fi today at home, so I'm very, very happy, but yeah, let's not try to abuse it, maybe. It will it will go bad. Okay.
Okay, sorry. I still didn't receive it.
Me neither.
Okay, just sent it. Tell me if you received it.
Mm.
Oh, there it is.
Okay, okay. 1 minute. Do you see it? No.
Yes, yes, we see it.
Yes, yes.
Okay. We was there.
Yeah, here.
Yes, so next slide, please. Thank you, Miguel and Alessandro, for this support. Don't know why my computer was not working in this. So, we were saying the short term of climate change has more impact on the food system than the long-term climate change. So, which are the sectors that this change are affecting? Are the manufacturing and distribution of inputs. So this means that all the seeds, animal feed, and fertilizer are are affected by these climate changes, the agricultural production, primary and secondary processing, the packaging, storage, transportation, distribution, the marketing and retail, catering, and so on. Then also the waste disposal, as well as the cold chain. Next slide, please.
Sorry.
Okay, so this is more or less the food system and how in next slide we will see how all these processes are affecting climate change with a detailed overview of CO2 emissions, so greenhouse gas emissions. So for the regarding the pre-production, we can say that the more impact are related to the manufacture fertilizer, energy use in animal feed production, and pesticide production. Regarding instead the production phase, this is the direct emissions from agriculture and indirect emissions from agriculture. This means that the direct emissions are the greenhouse gases directly emitted, for instance, when growing wheat. And the indirect emissions are those emissions which are produced by the industries, for instance, in order to save the wheat from atmospheric agents. So it means that the first one is directly related to a product, to the culture of a product. The second one is related to the process of the industry of farmers. And then the post-production phase, we see the primary and secondary processing. The primary process is the one, for instance, which transforms the wheat in flour. And the secondary processing is the one which is transforming the flour into bread. So this means that the secondary processing transforms completely the raw material of the agriculture of the food system. Then we have the storage, packaging, and transport, the refrigeration, retail activities, and also again waste disposal. An important part in the post-production phase is played by the cold chain, so the refrigeration of food. So this means that when food is produced, this has to be delivered to the local supermarket or to other industries which are responsible maybe for the packaging and so on. So this means that the food has to be saved during the transport, and this is also impacting on the food itself, but also on climate change. So if you consider all the cars with a giant refrigerator inside the wagon, and they are also, producing a lot of greenhouse gas emissions. Next slide, please. Can you go next slide, Michaela, please?
But I did. You cannot
Oh,
see?
no, I can. Okay, now I see it. Thank you.
Okay, okay.
So now we can see we can quantify the level these food chain processes are affecting the climate change in terms of emissions. So this means that during one year, in order to produce and to use to fertilize the culture, more or less there are 282 megatons of CO2 emissions. And another important part is played by the direct and indirect emissions from agriculture. So in this case, we see that there is a range from a minimum to a maximum. This means that for the developed countries, like in Europe, maybe this can be the level is lower than the raising countries like India or China. I think it is already raised as country, but from this graph, from this table, we can see that the direct and indirect emissions are considerably higher in the Eastern Europe, in the Eastern Asia than in Europe. So Regarding the post-production, we can see that as we said before, the refrigeration, so the cold chain is producing most of emissions, most of greenhouse gas emissions, rather than the other processes. Also more than the primary and secondary processing. So this means that in order to deliver the food to the supermarket, this impact more than producing the food itself. So this is really something interesting that before maybe I didn't consider as much important. Let's say all the transport and the refrigeration of the food rather than the production itself. Next slide, please. So yeah, going deeper to the correlation between climate change and food system, it is important to explore how the eating attitude of people are affecting the climate change and the food system at the same time. Next slide, please. So in this second section, we will see the relationship of how people behave with the climate change. So as we said, in Europe, the the food system is one of the most important sector of economy. And what is common understanding in Europe, so at least recently, is that we need to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions from agriculture and adapt it to cope with climate change. So this means that we need to figure out how the mitigation adaptation actions can be implemented in this sector in order to positively, let's say like this, positively impact to the climate change. So this is to say that it is quite difficult to consider everything as a separate sector of economy or of the food or in general. So the point of view in this case is that we need to consider that everything is interrelated. So this means that our attitudes has sometimes direct, sometimes indirect effect on climate change, but also on the food system. Could you play the video, please?
I'm trying.
Mm-hmm.
It's not working. Can you send me the link maybe? And
Yeah, of course.
is on the chat?
Just a moment.
Okay. Mm. But
So this is a quite nice video.
you don't see my screen, right?
Yeah, I see it.
You see? Do you see the video?
No, we see the
Okay.
PowerPoint presentation.
Wait a minute, because I was sharing only the. Okay, share.
So we found this video with Sylvia and we called it the blue shirt guy, and in Italy Magliettina Blu, and it was quite funny but also interesting at the same time. So we decided to show it to everyone. So you can play.
Yeah, sorry, but it's not working. I don't see the mouse. Alice, non trovo la freccetta. Non mi... Scusa, non so che è successo.
You cannot find the cursore?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know what's going on.
Try to push barra spaziatrice. Maybe oh, there it is. The video is playing, but we don't hear the audio.
Yeah, you don't. Can you share just the video because I don't know how to do.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let me try. Wait a
Now
second.
This is the blue shirt guy, and it is really really funny.
So wait a second.
Mhm.
I cannot see my. I cannot stop
Okay,
my.
I'll try to.
I'm
No worries.
sorry.
No
Technical
worry, no
problems.
worries. I'll try to steal the present.
Thank
Oh,
you.
there it
Okay.
is. Wait. Here it comes. Wait a second. Okay. An extra share window. This window here. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Let's try with the audio. Can you hear the audio?
No, we can't.
No, you cannot. No, why? Okay. Hmm. Oh, it wasn't a problem before. Let me see. No. Okay, I'll try. Wait a second. Maybe it's because I have the Bluetooth. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can.
Oh, no.
Alessandro, maybe when I'm Evie. Hello, everyone. Maybe when you choose share content, you have to choose optimize for video.
Window. Okay, let's try this.
And I spend a lot of time in Montana. So
Can you
for
hear
me,
the audio?
that medium
Wait, we
rare
can.
grass-fed
Yes, we
ribeye
can.
steak,
Yes.
pretty much as good as it gets. I know, I don't do it often. And when it comes to food, I'm a total sucker. Whether it's sugar or grease or carbs, pretty much bring it on. And I spend a lot of time in Montana. So for me, that medium rare grass-fed ribeye steak, pretty much as good as it gets. I know, I don't do it often. And when I do, I gotta admit, I feel a little conflicted. And that's for a lot of reasons, including the planet. But how big of a problem is what I eat? I mean, does it really make much of a dent in something as huge as global warming? It turns out what we put on our plates matters a lot. The About 25% of all the global climate change problems we're seeing can be attributed back to the food and the choices that we're actually making about what we eat on a daily basis. This is greater than all the cars on the planet. In fact, it's about twice as much global warming pollution as the cars. Ben Holton and Maya Almaraz study the connection between climate and diet at the University of California, Davis. They track how the way we produce food creates greenhouse gases that contribute to global warming. With that data, the team has crunched the numbers to figure out how much carbon pollution is produced by different foods and different diets.
A lot of people feel really helpless when it comes to climate change, like they can't make a difference. And what our research is showing is that your personal decisions really can have a big impact.
So take that grass-fed ribeye steak I love. If you really look at everything that went into making a single serving of beef, you end up emitting around 330 grams of carbon. That's like driving a car 3 miles. Now, if I choose to have chicken instead, there's more than a 5-fold drop in emissions. Switch to fish, and you see the number go down even more. Now, look at veggies. If I swapped beef out entirely for lentils, well, I'm down to practically nothing. So why does beef, and lamb too for that matter, pack such a powerful punch to the planet? Livestock accounts for a little over 14% of global greenhouse gas emissions. If that sort of seems low to you, consider it's about equal to transportation. We're talking all the cars, trucks, planes, trains, and ships on the planet combined. This is partly because ruminant animals like cows and sheep, they're just gassy. And the methane they produce is at least 25 times more potent than carbon dioxide. Plus, it takes a lot of land, fertilizer, and about 1 billion tons of grain to feed all that livestock.
And you could feed 3.5 billion people with that grain. If we were just directly eating these grains ourselves, it would eliminate a lot of the CO2 that's emitted from cattle production.
So it's clear that meat has a pretty big carbon load. But it's also worth remembering that not all livestock is raised equally. In parts of the American West, for instance, ranchers are working to raise livestock in ways that actually help restore the land. And they're experimenting with ways that soil and grasslands can be used to keep carbon pollution out of the air. But even these sustainable ranchers will really tell you we're probably eating too much meat. I know a lot of people who, if you don't serve them meat for lunch or dinner, they're kind of like, well, when is the meat coming out? It's to the point now where the US actually has one of the highest meat footprints per capita. So what about not eating meat at all? Vegan is the way to go for the least impact on the planet, but it's not that much different in terms of emissions than, say, a vegetarian diet. And the team found that the environmental impact of the Mediterranean diet is pretty similar to vegan and vegetarian diets. It's a lot less meat heavy than what Americans are used to. So fish and poultry a few times a week, beef maybe once a month, plenty of plant-based foods, and of course, loads of olive oil.
Eliminating like 90% of your meat intake is more important than eliminating all of your meat. We don't all have to be vegan. We don't all even have to be vegetarian. If we can just reduce our meat intake, every little bit helps. And if you can bring it down a lot, you can help the climate a lot.
If we all just switched to a Mediterranean diet, it could actually solve 15% of global warming pollution by 2050. If everyone were to move toward it, that is equivalent to taking somewhere around 1 billion cars off of the streets in terms of vehicle emissions each year. So that kind of a footprint is big time. But say you still want more meat than the Mediterranean diet recommends. Just cutting down your portion size to the doctor recommended 4 ounces can reduce your emissions by half. That's huge. In fact, the doctors are telling us we're eating about twice as much meat as we really need for a healthy diet. The good news is we are listening to our doctors. In the last decade, there's been a 19% drop in the amount of beef we eat.
All these things that you're already being told are good for you also happen to be good for the planet.
So what we eat really is a big part of the climate puzzle. I mean, we may not all be able to afford an electric car or putting solar panels on our house, but we all have to eat every day. And these choices we make can add up to really big numbers. And since meat has a pretty big carbon load, we need to be thoughtful about how much we eat. As for that ribeye steak that I really love, I am honestly trying to cut back. Maybe just a smaller piece of steak, or simply swapping out a meat dish for a veggie burger. It may seem like a small thing, but it really does add up to big impacts. Hey, so what did you have for dinner last night? Find out how your choices are affecting global warming by taking a quiz at climate.University of California.
Okay.
Okay, so now I should be able to present again. Do you see my screen? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the video, and yeah, this that video was not meant to to support the veganism, but just to reflect on the personal behavior and how this affect the climate change. So, in order to have an overview of how we can, as an individual, how we can behave in a sustainable way, some reasoning like this, I think that should be made. So, so it seems somehow that the Mediterranean diet is the maybe the solution for the climate change, but I think this is not, this is not the case because there was an image during the video where from the hike where a guy was cutting the vegetables and so maybe in their view, in their point of view, it represented the Mediterranean diet, but on the table there were a lot of vegetables which are produced during different seasons. So, for instance, producing a tomato in winter is much is consuming maybe the double of the energies, but also is producing the double of the emissions rather than doing it during the summer. So the Mediterranean diet doesn't mean that you can eat vegetables whenever you want. But I think that in this case, some reflection should be made on when to eat vegetables, when to eat meat, and which are the say a critical view of our behaviors in relation to the climate change. So in this case, we see how the food system affect the healthy or unhealthy eating attitudes. So from the agricultural production, we see that a lot of, let's say, points, a lot of topics and processes which are involved in this macro area, like the climate change, land use, also water use, waste, extreme weather, and so on. During the storage, we see that the post-harvest loss is something very important. The nutrient losses also is important, but also waste. So anyway, avoiding listing all the processes, we can see that from the agricultural production to the eating attitude or the sustainable diet, we see some common points like the nutrient losses. In this case, during the production until the consumption, the use of pesticides or other chemical-based products reduces the germs, but also the fat of, for example, for the wheat. This means that from a nutrient point of view, this means that this is not so. Let's say this is not enough for us, and so during the processing, some nutrients are artificially embedded into the food. This doesn't mean that these are, let's say, chemicals, something which is bad for us, but this means that these, for example, calcium, this means that are added after the product is, let's say, is can be eaten. And we can see that also during the distribution there is a nutrient losses. So the cold change affect the climate change, so there are a lot of greenhouse gases emissions, but at the same time this also damage the food. So this means that somehow this food system is not so sustainable, neither for the climate change nor for for people. And also in all the food system processes, we say that waste is a common point. So from the production there is waste, during the storage there is waste, until the consumption there is waste. So the short-term impact of climate change, so the variability uh, of the climate is affecting all the stages. This means that long period of heat can damage the harvest. So this means that there is waste at the stage. This means that all the wheat has to be burnt or has to be wasted. Also during the processes, maybe also in this case, reducing the fat in a product, in food, is somehow sustainable for the environment, because this means that the food get rancid in more time. So this means that the same food can get to our table in the same time. So this is really sustainable for the environment, for the climate change. This means that the waste is reducing. But of course, this is not, let's say, a linear relationship within all these elements, but also if we decide to behave in a healthy sustainable way, or an unhealthy and or an unsustainable way, all the previous processes has some impact. So this means that, for instance, if I choose to follow an unhealthy diet, this means that I eat more meat, or I eat more fast food during the week than an unhealthy person, let's say like this. And from a point of view of legislation and policies, this means that the demand of fast food is increasing. The demand of meat is increasing. This means that at country level, some legislation can be developed in order to favor the intensive farming, and in this sense, it means that I'm increasing the level of greenhouse gas emissions. So this is just an example of how choosing an unhealthy diet can affect the climate change, but anyway, this let's say can affect all the processes. And instead, choosing an unhealthy diet is, let's say, is a friend for the climate change. This means that the the food that we are eating is different. This means that we decide to eat less meat, but we decide to eat more beans, for example, and the beans are producing less emissions than meat. So in this sense, the main thing is that with our diet, with our behaviors, with our attitudes, we can affect positively the climate. So we can help, we can support the buffering process of the environment toward the climate change and the food system. Next slide, please. So, as we said before, another important topic related to food is waste. So, as we said, the wastage occurs mainly at the production stage. And in developed countries, it occurs mainly at distribution stage and household consumption. So it will be enough to think about all the products that we waste during our daily routine and so on. Next slide, please. So this is another video. I don't know if we want to see it let's see.
Okay, it seems that this time is working. Can you hear
Is working.
the audio? No? You don't know.
No, we
I
can.
can.
You can?
No,
No,
we cannot.
no,
You
no.
can't. Okay. Ale, there is
So we do
some
the same as before, yeah?
yeah, or maybe
Don't know, maybe we can just skip it and leave it for who is interested
okay.
in seeing the video. So basically, I could just resume, sum up the video. It was addressing the 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 waste topic from an individual point of view. So this was the story of a young guy which who was frequently visited by her mom, and as all the moms do. They were complaining about the food waste and what his good boy was eating. So this is more something like to, let's say, to learn how to reduce the waste during our life. So for instance, to understand that this is a really easy, say, simple example, uh, just to understand the difference between it has to be eaten by a certain date or preferably by a certain date. So this means that also if also if the date is has passed, we can smell it, and if we consider it good, we can eat it. But in the other cases, this is not possible. And I think we can just go next slide, Michele. No problem. So more or less, this is what the video was communicating. So what we can do to reduce the waste in our homes? First of all, this seems really, let's say, not stupid, but common, or something like we didn't think about this until we read it. So we have to shop with a list and also for a full stomach. This means that we don't have to be hungry while shopping, while doing shopping, while buying meat or while buying food. This is something I don't follow, and yeah, while in these cases I buy a lot of stuff which when I have dinner, I realize that I don't need, or this is something like, let's say something like fast food, which I don't like, and I don't know, I bought it, and yeah, I recognize that I'm usually have an empty stomach during these cases. Also, maybe in this case we should avoid buying too large portions of food. So we know that the large portions of food are always convenient, more convenient than the small portion, but we can maybe we can buy the large portions and freeze some of them that we don't use instead of leaving in the fridge until the expiration date. So again, we can store leftover food in the freezer. This is something that I appreciate from my grandma, which has more or less 3 or 4 full freezer of food, which I think we will never eat, even though let's say we put all of our efforts in this. And also we can check the expiry dates, as we were saying before, best before or buy. Of course, we need to separate the waste. So this means that we have to be responsible in these cases. So where to throw something is if it is the correct bin and so on. Next slide, please. Okay, so for the third part of this presentation, next slide, please, we will go through the, let's say, which is the role of education which is the role in teaching healthy attitudes also related to climate change. So we can start this this part asking how can we foster the transition to a low carbon society? In my opinion, and in the opinion of some scholars, an important role is played by the school or by education. So, as in almost all the aspects of children or young people. Next slide, please. So, more or less, this can be considered as the relationship or the process of how to get a low carbon society. The first step is of course the school education, but this is not intended as the school education in general, but the school education as driven of healthy behaviors for children. And this means that the school education should teach about responsible eating attitude. In this case, we can consider also another point between eating attitude and school education, which is the involvement of families. Because when we talking about eating attitude, we can talk about the let's say teach eating attitude is easier for children than for adults. So the school and education cannot play an individual role. They need the support of the families, but and also for the students. So as we saw before previously, the eating attitude, so on the healthy diet and sustainable diet can decrease the level of greenhouse gas emissions, and they can positively affect on lowering the level of the carbon footprint on the society. So this is was to say how the school and the education play an important role in reaching the getting a low carbon society. Next slide, please. So, as we said before, a positive attitude toward the climate change and can be the reduction of meat eating. And some scholars suggest that this can reduce the cost of climate change mitigation by as much as 50% in the 2050. So it seems that in order to get a low carbon society, we should eat less meat and more seasonal food. But next slide, please. So yeah, thank you. And in order to eat less meat, we need to leverage the individual part and in the individual points of view of people or of children. So this means that we need to motivate, we need to share green goals. So we need to share a climate change point of view so that people can act in order to achieve a sustainable environment. So this means that we need to work on values, on beliefs and attitudes, on green goals like save energy at home or install solar panel. So also for motivation point of view. So we can consider that climate change is due to people, or from the other perspective, I can take all climate change. So we can consider a positive or an active perspective on climate change. I can take all climate change. This means I can do something to act more in a sustainable way, or if I think that climate change is due to people, this is not my fault. This is not something that is related to me. And we can teach on how to eat less meat, but in this case, acting on beliefs and something which is really personal, individual for people is more effective than changing behaviors. And eating less meat, this is a mitigation action. So this means that if I eat less meat, the greenhouse gases emissions are reduced. So this is something like to decrease the problem, to solve the problem from the roots. So to decrease the causes of the climate change. Next slide, please. So, and in order to eat less meat, so if I want to use the meat eating as a mitigation action, I can consider the biodiversity as a adaptation action. So this means that the school should educate to biodiversity. So the biodiversity is the diversity of life and the variety of species of microorganisms and so on. But related to food, this means that educate to, for instance, to a Mediterranean food. And so this means that I can eat different thing rather than meat every day, and acting on the value level and on the belief level, so the school should teach that that a sustainable nutrition for the person is a sustainable nutrition for the planet. Next slide, please. So this is something that we already said. So could you go on, please? What is interesting now is that biodiversity is disappearing. So as we said at the beginning, the high demand of food is reducing the quality of food. So this means that the 75% of plant varieties are lost, for instance. And the industry's goal of the food system is profit. So this means that it must produce food in an efficient and fast way. But at the same time, the demand of food from the population is rising a lot. An example can be the production of avocados, which recently spread and increasingly in Africa, but also in South America, but also I recently saw in Israel, if I'm not wrong, which are coming from, but most of all in South America, which where they are cutting all the trees of the Amazonia forest in order to cultivate avocados, which anyway requires a lot of water. So, in order to satisfy the demand of European people, which need to eat avocado in every poke bowl, the climate change is affecting a lot. So, for this reason, somehow it is important the biodiversity. So it means that we can eat different thing, or we can eat in a sustainable way, and affecting positively the climate. Next slide, please. So, yeah, this is again about biodiversity, meaning that the 60% of world's food is based on three cereals: wheat, rice, and maize. Um, this is something I try to do. So, thinking about all the different kind of apple existing in Italy, for instance, and I think I only know one, maybe like Renetta, so which is the most famous one, and I am a bit ashamed of this because I really like apple, but uh, let's see, the biodiversity, so the missing of biodiversity is affecting me somehow, and this is something I really consider important at this stage, because I like I like nature, and I consider as an individual value the importance of climate change, so to act in a sustainable way. But the I recognize, and we all should recognize, the importance of biodiversity. Next slide, please. So again, this is something that we could ask to develop self beliefs or values in order to act in a sustainable way. So what does it mean to choose the foods closest to us? So the link between the individual behavior and climate change could appear very say far away, but say there is a fil rouge linking all the aspects, from the personal attitude, from the healthy attitude, to the production of food. And other question we could use to reflect on these topics is, what does it mean not to make goods travel? So if we saw that during the post-production phase, the transportation is producing the higher level of greenhouse gas emissions, maybe we could choose not to buy things that comes from the other side of the world. Maybe we could choose to buy things which are locally produced, at least in our country, let's say like this. Next slide, please. So, getting back to the role of education, during the first years of school, children's belief and value systems are still under development. This doesn't mean that we have to do something like propaganda, let's say like this, but let's say teachers, but also families and schools should influence or should teach on how to think critically about these topics. So, due to the importance of mass media to the climate change topics, this is something that is recognized within young people as an important topic, the climate change. And anyway, some steps still have to be made. And of course, the role of school is something really important, which can be useful in order to achieve a sustainable society. Next slide, please. So, as we said, we see that the intervention and the climate change topics are mostly promoted through environmental sustainability education and through STEM education. So the program developed in the schools are mainly focusing on STEM education, which is really something very important and which is also Choice Project is addressing. In order to understand how all the greenhouse gases emissions impact the world, some STEM skills need to be developed. So in this case, this should be the first stage to the first area, so the first educational area to address through by educational intervention. Next slide, please. And the approach used by the intervention are mainly knowledge-based and cognitive. This means that knowledge-based, the sensibilization and to inform people, young students, families about the problem of climate change, about the sustainability of our behavior and how this impact to climate change. Another important approach used in this intervention are adaptation or mitigation. We will have a deep lesson about the mitigation adaptation actions during the joint staff training event in Larissa. So Silvia will explain you everything in detail of how this works. And also about the intervention in curriculum or in the pedagogy of the school. This is more general, so addressing the problem of climate change or promoting sustainable behavior in a more systemic way. So making the older school as a friend, let's say like this, a friend of climate change. Next slide, please. So not a friend of climate change, sorry. A sustainable actor in the fight against climate change. So, some successful strategies adopted by school programs. For instance, some focused on making climate change information personally relevant and meaningful for learners. So this is what we said so far, addressing the personal individual behaviors and linking them to the consequences to climate environment is something which is really relevant for young people, for students, and which has also a meaning for them. And in this sense, understanding how my behavior can positively impact the climate environment, uh, this influence also my beliefs, my values, and my motivation to act in a sustainable way. Other strategies are educational interventions to engage learners, also deliberative discussion to help learners better understand their own or others' point of views, or giving learners the opportunity to interact with scientists and with say expert figures in this in climate change topics. Next slide, please. So these are some of the strategies and the intervention implemented in Europe, but also in USA. So in order to make the information personally relevant and meaningful for learners, some of projects developed are, for instance, when the climate change information was embedded in a unit on a water quality for middle school students. So again, this is an evidence of the fact that it is important to leverage the STEM skills in these cases. So and also this is something that is also easier to embed in school classes. Next slide, please. So so regarding the knowledge-based intervention or making something relevant for students, here we see the amount of water used in order to produce these tomatoes, apples, and so on. So we see that in order to produce 100 grams of tomatoes, we use 18 liters of water. And in order to produce 100 grams of meat, I think it is lamb, I don't know, I'm not sure. We use 1,550 liters of water. So in these cases, sharing this knowledge, so basing the intervention on knowledge and information, and link it to the importance of making a sustainable choice can be relevant for students. Next slide, please. Other intervention or strategies implemented refer to the engaging learners. So could be used methods such as debates or small group discussions with worksheets, hands-on labs, and field trips. Also role plays and simulations. So this is something that we will have the chance to experience during our training, and this is again an evidence of the fact that around the world these interventions are commonly used in order to raise awareness, but also to make these topics important for students and for the school as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so an interesting model which we consider important and also useful for teachers is the 5E model based on the constructivist approach. So this model is just, let's say, a guideline to follow for teachers in order to develop activities within the school and within the classroom and with students, which could be applied in order to foster sustainable behaviors. So the first phase, the engagement. So here you need to prepare the setting and to provide instructions. So this means that where the intervention will take place, if inside the school, outside the school, in the classroom, at home, and so on. And also provide instruction how to develop, how to carry out the project. Then we have the exploration phase where students are testing the hypothesis. So if, for instance, we use a science cafe activity, in this case, we could give instruction to students to share your hypothesis and then use or keep in mind which you consider more relevant or more realistic and maybe true from a scientific point of view. Then we have the explanation where in these cases teachers are facilitating the discussion and are facilitating the conclusions, the process of drawing conclusion from students. Then we have the elaboration and so develop and understand concept and apply evidence in real situation. Then we have the evaluation phase, so summarizing, pose questions, make judgments. During the last two stage of this model, teachers have a more and more important role. So they develop and they develop and facilitate the students to understand the concepts. Most importantly, in the case if we want to apply, if we want to develop a project in STEM skills. So this is really important that also that we link what students are learning to to real situations. So again, make the knowledge relevant and significant for them. Next slide, please. So we have finally arrived to the last slide and the end of this session. So some concluding remarks that can be drawn are that eating attitude and climate change have a reciprocal relationship, and the former can be affected and influenced directly or indirectly the latter. Then we can say that healthy eating attitude can be considered as a mitigation action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, like eating less meat can be considered a mitigation action. And in order to raise awareness, to make the climate environment and the sustainable behaviors important for students, for young people, the school and the education plays an important role as affecting and developing systems as values, attitudes, and green goals. Next slide, please. So yeah, that's all. Here I leave for you some references and some important studies which are relevant for these topics, which you may be interested in, and you can consult everywhere you want, whenever you want. So thank you for your attention. I hope you not so bother. I was not so boring, and I hope you enjoyed these sessions. And thank you again for attending.
Thank you, Davide.
Thank you, Davide. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I think it was very interesting also because we are going to develop a vademecum for the parents and the children and teachers as well. And there are many inputs from the food section. And it's also a work we are going to do during Larissa. And moreover, I think that for the teachers, when they are going to the canteen with the kids, could be very helpful to explain how everything is work. And we can also try for real one day zero emission in Larissa.
Yes,
One
sure.
lunch or one dinner.
Only
Yeah,
water.
only water. No. No, but it's very
Water,
impressive.
tea.
It's very impressive because
Water and olives.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Local olives. No more. No, actually, thank you, Davide. This is a very interesting topic because I think personally, we don't really think enough or often enough how our food choices have an impact on the environment. For example, in my case, I'm half Filipino, so my mom, she's from the Philippines, and well, from time to time we miss food from down there. So we would go to, you know, like how do you say that, like supermarket, like Asian supermarket, where you have, you know, like the products like soy sauce or other stuff, because already soy sauce you can find it everywhere now. But then when I try to think that, oh, why can't we eat this like a bit more often? And first thing is the price, because, well, it's more expensive, like everything, because they have to ship it here. And since COVID also, like the supply chain from Far East Asia was heavily affected by this. So it's even more expensive than before. But then you don't realize that with shipping, you emit more, because you have to bring the food that is from there to here. And maybe it's by boat or maybe by airplane, but still you have to move goods, and that produces lots of emissions, instead of just having a pasta alla matriciana, which we can have it here. Or even sometimes maybe, I don't know, now you can really, as Davide mentioned before, you can find avocados everywhere. They actually grow it in Italy. In Sicily, I've heard now, thanks to climate change. We grow it in Italy now. And in Scandinavia, they grow grapes for wine. So thanks to that too. But then we don't realize, for example, that, you know, like the fact that avocado is a big hype now in our diets. Apart from the environment, we also impact the lives of people where the avocados are grown. For example, I read an article that in some places in Central America, where actually avocado is native, and they use it as a staple food also for the local people's diets. In some places, they cannot afford to buy avocados anymore, because the production is so focused on shipping it to, you know, like Europe or Northern America, that the avocados locally are being grown to be exported in that market. So it's getting and even impossible for locals to buy, because the avocados are high in price, because they all want to, you know, to export it somewhere else. And then people who have eaten avocado for so long, because it's already in their diet, because it grows there, they cannot afford to buy it anymore. So, and yeah, as you said, it affects the environment, it affects society in so many ways as well. And we really need to think a bit more about, you know, how our choices, or apparently, you know, innocent, let's say, choices, just like, oh yeah, let's go for a poke today, or let's have this, I don't know, guacamole sauce tonight. We don't really think of the impact that having avocado here can have on a lots of things, from the environment, to society, to, I don't know, I don't know how to explain, to translate.
Yeah, but you are focusing too much on the poor avocado because
Yeah, no. This is just an example, because we were
yeah.
thinking of avocado before, so
Okay.
but this can be applied pretty much about anything that it's not grown locally, or like close to you. So yeah, it's not just avocados, it can be anything. Or for example, if some of you have seen the documentary that is in deforestation, we have a very nice documentary on soybean and the cultivation of soybean. And as Davide was saying before, yeah, a vegetarian or vegan diet, it has less impact, because you don't grow grain to feed it to a cow that you eat later, but you eat directly what you are growing. But then in some cases, the hype about the soybean and the tofu and all the derivatives for, like vegan hamburger and this kind of stuff, it brought us to a point that the Amazon forest is being cut down, not just for the cattle, for for roaming, for letting the cows go around, but it's also being cut down for the soybean crops, to grow soybean. And that soybean, it's either for to feed the livestock, or to produce vegan products. So we think, oh yeah, this is vegan, this must be nice, and it has less impact. But then we have to check where it's produced, how it is produced, because there are things that are happening and we don't really realize it, that, oh yeah, tofu is nice because it's grown, it's a plant, it's not polluting, etc. But then maybe the tofu is grown in Brazil, where they cut down a section of the forest just to grow the soybean. So we have to be very very aware, not aware, sorry, but very how do you say that? Very
I would say well informed about
well
what is.
informed. Yes, Nella, thank you. Very well informed, and try not to fall in this greenwashing traps, because greenwashing is a real thing, because we see, oh yeah, this is green, oh it's sustainable, but then we don't see, or they don't let us see how the thing is actually produced, or where it comes from. Or yeah, this avocado is biological, and it's biological, it's bio, let's say, and it's grown in Italy. So yeah, it's not transported from far away. But then we go there and we realize that, oh yeah, if you know a bit more about avocado, I'm sorry, I don't hate avocado, I actually like avocado, but I've read about a bit of things about avocado. And for example, now they grow avocado in the south of Italy, in Sicily. But then
I grow avocado on my own house
too. Oh,
in Rome.
does it give fruits?
Yeah, I bring them
Nice.
the office ones. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Okay,
Yeah, but because it was a seed from
avocado.
Israel. Yes, yeah.
From now on, just Michela's avocado.
I'm an avocado lawyer.
Okay. But for example, yeah, as a tropical plant, avocado needs a lot of water, like really a lot. And then yeah, maybe Sicily has the conditions, like the weather conditions, like the sun and the exposure to sun that avocado needs, but then they don't have enough water, because in the tropics, water comes, in rainfall, and it's hot, but it's very humid as well. But in Sicily, it's not like that, or in other places where they grow it. So they have to take lots of water from the underground and to grow it. And then how sustainable can that be if you have to, like push this thing? Maybe you gain stuff, you gain in emissions, because you don't have to ship it from Brazil or Ecuador to Europe, but then you grow it in places where, like south of Europe, it's sunny, it's warm, but then they don't have enough water to produce it. So we have to be careful and very well informed. And maybe more than teaching to each other or to the students, avocado is this and that. It's more like to foster a sense of, yeah, don't just fall for the first thing that you see, because like marketing it's evil. Sometimes they try to sell you stuff, so they don't really care about much else sometimes. So it's more like, maybe I would say, fostering a sense of, or a keen eye to, like, really, okay, is this really what it is advertised on the thing? Like, oh, okay, is it really sustainable, biological, and blah 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 blah. And yeah, these are just my thoughts. So sorry for.
Yeah, I agree. Some critical thinking is needed by, let's say, by young people, but by everyone anyway.
I'm just gonna miss. I'm just gonna feel a bit bad maybe when we will eat so many gyros in Greece. I noticed that last time when we went there, we had meats at least, no, once a day we had meat, which was very good, so good. So, but yeah, thanks Davide for spoiling meat eating for every one of us.
Okay. So I think we can close the meeting, and also you will find all the presentation and video on YouTube and in the repository and on the platform. And today we just sent the agenda for the joint training event in Larissa, and